When you guys talk about, I want to make sure the listeners understand what you mean by mirroring. This is something, it's not an act of bridging tokens from one protocol to the other, is it? Can you guys walk through that a little bit more?
No, it's not. Basically, it's passing on the message of the position from one chain to another.
Got it.
We are actively using anypol tech from multichain currently on our deployments for
Ah,
this tech.
yeah. I was just reading about any call the other day.
Yes, so we are one of the few projects who started using their tech early, as soon as it went out. And we're in contact with the multi-chain team, and so far, so good. We like
So that allows the other chain to basically know that the person has 100 on the other chain and then allows them to perform actions on that other chain based on that without having to bridge the tokens over.
Welcome to Mission DeFi with Brad Nickel, where we explore projects in decentralized finance that are innovating and driving our mission of financial freedom forward. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and review Mission DeFi and spread the word by posting a tweet to the show. All opinions expressed by Brad Nickel or his guests are their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Black Knox, Material Indicators, or any other affiliated organizations. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Brad Nickel or his guests as an inducement to make a particular investment, follow a particular strategy, or become involved with any project. A project being featured on the show is not an endorsement of that project in any way. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Now, here's Mission DeFi with Brad Nickel.
Today, I am excited to have back on the team from 100. We had them back on way back in November. So we've calculated that's worth about 4.5 years in DeFi time. And 100 has been incredibly busy during that time. So I'm really excited to catch up with them, what they're doing, what's been going on. But first of all, we have with us TerraBellus and Acid Bird. If each of you could introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit of your background, and then we'll get into kind of what 100 is and what's been going on. So Tara, you want to go first?
Sure, Brett. Thanks for having us, and thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to everyone again. So yeah, I'm TerraBellus, aka Terra. I've been involved in crypto since about 2017 when I was sucked in by the ICO boom, and then I stuck around throughout the long crypto winter that followed. During that period, gradually becoming more nuanced in the kind of investing that I was doing. So during that time, I came to know of DeFi, became deeply embedded in the synthetics ecosystem, and through that participated in DeFi Summer and learned all about the various protocols that go into making the DeFi space so useful. That led me to meet VFAP of the famous VFAP tools, and also Acid Bird. And for the last, I guess it's 8 to 9 months now, we've been working on 100 Finance. And there I'll pass over to Acid Bird so he can do an intro too.
Yeah, thank you, Brett. Hi, everyone. Acid Bird, and I also started in 2017 my way into crypto universe. And I started investing in different protocols, projects, and experimenting with them, learning a bit more about what each project does, etc. Then throughout the bear market, I was still working in different projects as a community manager and helping them grow their presence in Discord mainly. And continued exploring everything about crypto. Then during DeFi Summer, met Terra and Webhead, as Terra mentioned already. And now working at 100, joined a little bit earlier than Terra. So for me, it's almost a year now. And also working in several different crypto native funds and doing marketing and PR plus community management at 100 Finance.
You're a busy man.
Have to be.
It never ends. It never ends.
Yeah, I like being busy. I always give my brain a lot of tasks, so it is not getting lazy. Otherwise,
good. Keeps your
Yeah.
brain growing. What were you gonna say, Tara?
Now that everyone has gone remote, it feels like you can do many different things with many different people who are working in many different places all of the time.
Yeah.
So while you have convenience, you also have this ability and almost the temptation to be taking on a lot.
Yeah, you fill that time up. It just gets sucked in the more time you have. I think that's the data that they always use for productivity numbers in the economy. They always claimed that eventually we'd all be working 3-day weeks, but I think as humans, we just keep filling it up.
a lot of people are pretty lazy.
It's true.
A lot. It always depends. But
True.
yeah, I like training my brain a lot.
Yeah, me too.
It's a game for me, kind of.
No, I totally want to keep mine busy, keep it growing, keep it moving. And so that's good. And we're in a complex world in DeFi, right? You're constantly challenged in this world. So I love being here and learning about it. Could you guys give us a little bit of the backstory on what 100 is, how it came about? If I'm not mistaken, there was another community that you guys came out of that this was created from, but give us an idea of what it's about, how it came about, and what it's for.
Basically, there was a project called Percent Finance initially. I joined it only after there was an accident with it, and it was in a frozen phase. But there was some, I think, human error in the contracts, and users lost their money. And 100 is a relaunch of that project, and there was 20 million of percent tokens available. 20% of supply of 100 supply, which is 20 million tokens, were granted those percent users. So it was a rehabilitation for them. And I know a lot of folks from that previous community who joined 100 and was very happy that this relaunch. The relaunch was, I think, around a year. It was planned and things were moving not very fast, but a year after the accident, 100 was born and going solidly forward.
Awesome. And the purpose behind 100 is to provide, and if I get this wrong, just tell me, but from what I understand of it, it is to give a more conservative, solid place for people to invest and have returns, but to be a little less degen than some other protocols. Is that conceptually why it was started, and then what's the kind of the mechanism behind how it functions that makes 100 what it is?
So basically 100 is a lending protocol. So people can lend their assets and borrow against those assets. That's the general concept behind 100. And we are targeting smaller chains first. We are normally one of sometimes the only or one of the first lending protocols on new chains. And that's kind of unique in a way what we're doing. And we're already on 7 chains, which Phantom, on River, Gnosis, Optimism, then Harmony, and Polygon. So, and we're going to launch on IOT probably next week already. So, and another thing, we were thinking that no one built cross-chain lending yet. And that's where like what we are doing right now, our developers are working on the solution to allow users, for example, to keep their funds on one chain. For example, let's say Phantom, and borrow against the position on Phantom on any other chain we are on. Already implemented this something new. What happened after our last call in November? We were talking back then about mirroring, where you can mirror your mirrored both escrow HND position from one chain to another. So this tech is live. We redeployed vouchers on our older deployments. Phantom was the last one. We just finished it 2 days ago. So now all the chains, all the deployments only have MVHND tokens, and users can mirror their position from one chain to another without and enjoy APRs and voting rights on any chains they want. We have 100 is live currently. In terms of safety and conservatism, you was mentioning in the question, yes, we are very different from any other protocols and less degen. That's true, because we're using Chainlink oracles. Only assets on our platform has to have a Chainlink price feed. If there is no the Chainlink price feed, we cannot add it. So it's a limited amount of tokens right now on our platform, but it's pretty safe. And I mean, Chainlink is a solid tech, and we're very conservative in this regard, because safety of users very important for us.
That's awesome. Tara, were you going to say something as well? Or did I see that you wanted to say something as well about the overview of the product?
I was going to just add that the multi-chain aspect is really the major differentiator when you compare us to other lending protocols. I guess it's because we're a smaller project, we're able to move a little bit fast. Not only that, we're also willing to integrate aspects of other projects. For example, the curve for escrow tokenomics doesn't exist in many other lending protocols, and it certainly didn't exist when we incorporated it. But that has a great benefit over other lending protocols, and that allows our users to really participate in managing how the reward token for the protocol, how the governance token of the protocol is being distributed, so that they can serve their interests in the same way that many cryptocurrency fundamentals are built on the idea that through pursuing our own individual quests, we're increasing capital efficiency and encouraging.
And what you're saying is, on that second point, that this allows participants in the protocol to determine how the resources are used. Are they able to vote on what is available to be borrowed against on the protocol, that kind of thing?
The HND token, which is the reward/governance token of the protocol, is emitted to those who are staking stable coins on each of our deployments. And the way that the vote escrow HND, the mirrored vote escrow HND holders interact with the protocol is by voting on which of the stable coins on each deployment gets what proportion of the HND emissions. Not only that, through possessing those mirrored VE HND, they actually increase their own APRs for the stable coins that they're lending. So it adds a kind of tactical element. Every week there's a new epoch, and that allows for the registration of people's new votes to be taken into account. And it keeps people coming back to the protocol, improves capital efficiency, allows the protocol to serve the stable coins that are most popular on a particular chain.
You guys are giving people the power to vote on how this functions and with what stable coins. Is that correct? And the rewards?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we do have something that kind of approximates Convex on Phantom in particular, where Liquid Driver has been essentially acquiring the HND token through users blocking it with them and them generating a wrapped version of the MVE HND token. And that allows them to offer boosted APRs to those that don't personally possess MVE HND token.
When you guys talk about, I want to make sure the listeners understand what you mean by mirroring. This is something, it's not an act of bridging tokens from one protocol to the other, is it? Can you guys walk through that a little bit more?
No, it's not. Basically, it's passing on the message of the position from one chain to another. We're actively using AnyCall tech from multichain currently on our deployments for this tech.
Yeah. I was just reading about AnyCall the other day.
Yes, so we are one of the few projects who started using their tech early, as soon as it went out. And we're in contact with the multi-chain team, and so far, so good. We like
So that allows the other chain to basically know that the person has 100 on the other chain, and then allows them to perform actions on that other chain based on that without having to bridge the tokens over. Is that
So basically, what happens is the person has MV HND on one chain, which is locked HND for governance and voting purposes and boost. So he passes the message from one chain to another, and this message has the position from the initial chain, and then it reflects on the second chain, and basically user gets this like second position with the same attributes and can use it on this second deployment. Or in third, fourth, like it can be mirrored to any number of chains.
Oh, that's fantastic. So number one, it makes it more flexible. Number two, it's safer, I would assume. And number three, it opens up all kinds of possibilities for use on other chains without the typical hassles that we go through for using a token on one chain or another chain.
Exactly. And this is our kind of first step towards the multi-chain lending abilities.
That's great. And so in that case, you will have the ability for people to borrow. Let's say I have tokens on Harmony. I think was Harmony one of your chains?
Yep.
Or okay. I have tokens on Harmony, but I can utilize and borrow against them on Phantom and utilize that on another chain, on Phantom, on another chain. That to me, I've not seen anybody doing anything similar to that. I would assume you guys are one of the first protocols to do anything like that.
Yes, we're already working on this tech, and we're planning to release it this year.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. We're planning to MVP it this year.
And I love that you just say this year so that you don't have to give a specific date, because that's how development is. We never know.
Exactly. Yeah, unfortunately, we cannot give any dates in this regard because this tech is very experimental and very new, but our target is this year.
That's great. And in terms of kind of the growth of the protocol, you guys are taking this strategy, which I actually love. I love the idea of hitting and being first on chain, especially as a lending protocol on these new chains. Has that resulted in kind of the growth that you guys hoped and expected? And I would assume that you probably also have a different base of users and community members, people who are first movers, people who are early adopters. Have you guys noticed that's made a difference in that way?
Let me start answering this question, and then I will pass to Terra. First, yes, there are different users on different chains, and this way the overall community kind of grows. And you are getting like people start using your product on one chain and then find out that you're available somewhere else. And very frequently they start using you and utilize the tech if they like it on other deployments as well. And when we, for example, kickstart on a new chain, we're making a POAP, like, a launch POAP for the users, for the first users to use the new deployment. And it's pretty cool that on one side, we see frequent users like who have all POAPs already from all our deployments. And we have 7 POAPs right now. And a lot of new users, like new joins or joiners on Discord, and new people who are native, because then we check the wallets provided if this person did interact with our debt. And you see the other transaction, and that this guy is from Harmony. He's using it for many months, and this one is from Polygon, etc. So it's really cool. But the problem with it, and we faced it unfortunately twice with new chains like Moonriver, there was an exploit with Matter bridge and victim of the hack of the bridge, and our users lost funds. And we just closed this Meta, topping up the compensation with our own compensation plan. And another chain, we just fixed it and supported the affected users. It took quite some time and efforts. And then we launched on Gnosis, and there was an exploit on Gnosis where Agave and our protocol also got affected, and our users lost funds. And it's really this risk with the smaller chains. It is with us as well. And but hopefully we will resolve this one also. We're working closely with the Gnosis members, and we propose several different options. And it seems that we reached a consensus with the Gnosis DAO members, users, and we will be able to refund together our affected users, and hopefully we will move forward. It really, we took a big hit with these two exploits, which were not the cause, like there were no problems with our code, but with the chain and with the bridge. And since our users lost funds, where a lot of them left the platform, and it was not really cool in marketing perspective, but we're getting over that and went forward no matter what. We continued our development, and I think in the end we will be stronger. Yeah. So Tara, if you want to add, please do.
I think it's worth noting that a certain responsibility does lie with 100 Finance to ensure that the chains on which we're launching are following the same standards, and the bridges that we support tokens for, bridges that are sufficiently robust to ensure that there are no issues arise there. And in the future, I think the team is heavily invested in working on ameliorate such risks that can emerge when you're jumping onto smaller chains. We're taking a more cautious approach in the future. But regarding the community in general, I think 100's been quite successful in overcoming one of the most common problems in cryptocurrency, and that's what kind of factionalism that exists. Projects are often heavily tied to the chain on which they first launch. But 100, because we're agnostic in terms of the chains that are flourishing, there's a huge number of chains launched this last 6-month period, but because we're agnostic in regards to them, nobody coming from a particular platform to our Discord or our other social channels is going to kind of feel like that they're not welcome because of where they've invested. And I think that makes us quite inclusive.
Yeah, that's a fascinating perspective, actually. The fact that you're not initially married to a chain. And that's one of the things I was getting at is you've got this group of people who have come together around your protocol, but all maybe consider another chain their home. And that to me is a fascinating concept and model that you guys have just been agnostic about it. So it allows you to grow more. Look, it spreads you thin as well in terms of trying to support and help people. But at the end of the day, the protocol functions the same on all of those chains. It shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. And look, this is an interconnected world, and the dependencies in DeFi are deep for everyone. And we've seen before protocols experience losses or negative impacts to a protocol because of the code of somebody else. And it's a tough thing to mitigate. It really is very difficult to mitigate to any extent unless you're going to start spending $500,000 a pop for audits on other tools and other protocols. But obviously, you guys are learning from that, and it sucks that you have this impact from a marketing perspective. But at the end of the day, the fact that it wasn't caused by your code, I think helps mitigate that with the community as well. And I always say all the time that this is an evolutionary process. We are all going to learn from the mistakes of ourselves and others, and that's how you become stronger and better.
Yeah, exactly. It's an experimental tech. Like a blockchain is a new technology, and but what doesn't kill us makes us stronger.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that's the spirit in 100 community and in the team. Yes, it was tough. Yes, it was unexpected. Of course, we didn't want it to happen, but we're getting through it. We're doing our best to, communicate with the projects behind it, and we're trying to find solutions. We find solutions, and we go forward. So in this regards, for sure, we will become more stronger after it, and more experienced and advanced, because of course, like Tara mentioned, we were not that strict with bridges. Yes, it will limit our ability Now we examine bridges more thoroughly. We decide we're working currently only with multi-chain. I think it's almost everywhere. But I mean, it doesn't give you 100% insurance as well, because even big protocols suffer losses at some points, unfortunately. But like I said, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that's the spirit we have, and that's how we move forward, and we can only learn from it and become better.
Yeah, look, I don't think DeFi grows as well and as rapidly as it has if we don't have failures. And you guys didn't fail, but failures that impact you or failures that we all commit. And I think that's actually our superpower, right? Things like this happen in the banking system. If we know about it, it's 2 or 3 years later, and in the United States, some congressional committee does absolutely nothing, and nothing is solved or nothing is made better. In the DeFi space, something like this happens within hours of an exploit happening. People are examining it, studying it, coming back together to figure out ways to solve it. To me, it's one of the things I love most about DeFi. Is I don't want to see the failures, but when I do, I get very excited about the fact that the whole community of developers here come together and start working on things. And that to me is pretty amazing.
Exactly. And like Gnosis chain, they just did a hard fork. As a result of this, fixed them, they found the flaw, they looked at it, and they hard forked. So the Gnosis chain became stronger as a chain, also due to this unfortunate situation. Well, there are many positive things behind it also.
Do you guys think you're going to start moving into larger chains? The Phantom is a fairly significant chain right now. I think they're undervalued. Polygon, yes, of course. Definitely big. Do you see in the future where 100 is moving on to Ethereum mainnet or wherever else?
Move on to the Evmos chain once that's been kind of battle tested.
Sure.
I'm a big fan of the Cosmos ecosystem, so getting on their version of the EVM compatible chain would be awesome.
That's great. That's great. And Optimism is on the hype train right now, so that's good that you guys are engaged there with their announcements the last couple of days.
Yes, we are already on Optimism, and we are on Polygon as well. And for sure, we are going to launch on main at some point. Also, that's the plan. And probably other chains, bigger chains, BSC, but as long as we have smaller chains, when Chainlink is there, for example, because we rely on that tech, as mentioned before, we will be looking at those smaller chains where people need services like ours, where there are no services at first, and we want to be there for them.
Yeah, I love that strategy. I like coming into these smaller ones. I actually interviewed a bridge, by the way. I'm happy to introduce you to them, called Printer Financial, that's doing a lock and burn strategy for their bridge. And the first 7 chains that they're on are similar to the list that you guys listed off. And their entire approach is to grow that way, to be one of the first in, to be able to get a user base together. It also makes, I assume, partnering a little bit easier, because new protocols that are on there, existing protocols that have moved onto those chains, everyone's eager to be able to work together to supply each other with users and liquidity and revenue. So I'm assuming that also has been part of it, that you guys have been able to build out partnerships, not easily, but it makes it, I think, a little bit easier to have integrations and partnerships. Is that something you guys have been doing, is doing partnerships with other protocols in the space as you've grown into these chains?
Absolutely. I'm the one who keeps track of these on the documents, and it's a full-time job just listing them. Yeah, we've been forming relationships not only with exchanges where they partner with us to provide liquidity incentives, but also technologies such as FujiDAO. I don't know if you're familiar with. They're a lending aggregator that's on Phantom.
Oh, nice. No, I wasn't familiar with them.
Yeah, so they're really interesting because they basically allow people to borrow assets from them, but they will ensure that the rate that they're paying in interest on those assets that they've borrowed is always as low as it possibly can be. So being on FujiDAO is a great way of drawing people to your product without them necessarily even knowing about it, because it's all happening on the back end.
That's awesome.
We've got a Liquid Driver on Phantom as well. We've partnered with Rome DAO to issue bonds on Moon River X token. We just partnered with them for liquidity on Optimism, not just partnered, we're doing a second round. So if people would like to provide liquidity for the HND token on Optimism, they can drop over to X token terminal and they'll receive rewards. What else? We've been building out Lendly. I imagine that hadn't been launched when we last spoke.
No.
Lendly is like a new implementation of the 100 Finance protocol that is designed to allow projects who wish to utilize their treasury to borrow more liquid assets without having to sell their treasury tokens.
Oh, wow.
So if you have a small project that has obviously a large amount of their own treasury asset, but they don't want to sell that on the open market in order to get the funds to do things like publicity and so on and so forth, what they can do is they can create a Lendly market where they deposit their treasury assets and then members of their community supply, for example, USDC in return for the donated token of that project. And then the project itself can borrow those USDC and use them how they see fit. And the idea being that through borrowing and deploying that USDC, they're going to be pushing forward the protocol, which is going to improve the value of the underlying token and thereby allow them to kind of pay off the loan through various other means. So that's the major new implementation of the 100 Finance protocol that we've embarked on. And we're hoping to push forward and we're carrying out more collaborations on that in future. We had one with VDAO, which you might be aware of, the solidly launch on, hoping for more in the future.
That's a really brilliant concept, right? You've got treasuries setting on their funds. They don't necessarily want to dump the funds out, and this gives them an opportunity to utilize it without losing it. And it also gives an opportunity for their community to participate and help them be able to grow and expand, pay people, et cetera. I think that's a really cool concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'd welcome projects to come and get in contact with us to discuss listing on Lendly.
That's fantastic. What's the website for Lendly? Is there a separate website or is it on the 100 website?
So it's lendly.100.finance.
Oh,
so it's easy to navigate to. And you can read more about it on our docs, which is docs.100.finance.
That's fantastic. That's a lot of partnerships, and I'm sure there's more that you didn't even mention. Who is, or how are you guys managing the business development side of this, or the partnering side of this? Are there like people on the team, or is it just everybody on the team takes on those conversations? Because there's always, like, every partnership, I'm sure there's a consideration of what do we have to do from a development perspective, and how many resources do we have available to do that, and what's it going to drive to us, et cetera. Is that, how do you guys scale and manage doing that when you're doing so many partners?
We share basically some partnerships, like technical ones. For example, B protocol is led by DeFi. So he is the one doing almost all communications there. But we, like myself, TerraBellus and Cha and the Blue Trip, we are also in the chat and we see what's happening. So we always know, and if needed, we can jump in and continue the conversation. In other places, for example, if we're talking about liquid driver, like I'm doing in Terra, we're doing communications with them, or X token, for example, also we're doing it. But as I mentioned, the same situation as we're all the team is in, and we're always on the same page, what's happening where. So that's how it works.
That's awesome. That's great. No, to me, partnerships, integrations are the lifeblood of DeFi in terms of marketing besides community. I love seeing a project that's really actively engaged in making that happen. And you guys are, not only are you launching across 7 chains, but at the same time, you're massively scaling up partnerships and integrations. So I just wanted to know if there was a magic formula or if it's just hard work and everybody picking up whatever they can. It sounds like it's the normal one, hard work.
Vipet is doing a lot of partnerships since, he is a very well-known figure in DeFi space. And some people turn to him and discuss possibilities for 100. For some projects, he asks them, but in general, yes, he sometimes he does introductions and then other members join the talk and take it from there. But big heads up for Rifat. He is very engaged in Android development, really on all fronts.
That's
And
great. Go ahead, Tara.
I think given that we're in an industry where so many people are anonymous or pseudo-anonymous, the fact that VPAT especially, but other members of the team have been around in the order of years, which is a lifetime in cryptocurrency, it really helps kind of establish trust when you're reaching out and discussing things with partners.
Yeah, of course. He's built a tool that every one of us have probably used at one time or another. So it immediately gives some credibility there. Plus, I'm sure he spent a lot of time getting to know people in the industry and when he was doing that. So that makes a ton of sense. So the last time Acid and VFAT were on, we talked about the idea that 100 is really taking an approach to development and growth that is a multi-year strategy, right? It's not this we must be the biggest within 6 months of launch approach that we see in a lot of other protocols. And I always felt like that really positioned you all well for when more and more large money, institutional money, family office money, or whatever came into the space. A protocol like 100 that's conservative, that's focused on security, that kind of was born out of a previous project that had problems and had a failure, that you all would be well positioned for that market. Is that something that you all see too now going forward, that not only can you be a great project for normal folks like me, but that there's an opportunity for this project because it'll be across all chains, and the philosophical approach that you guys taken for as more and more institutional money comes in to be there for it?
Definitely. Definitely. This is still the case. Of course, those problems we discussed earlier, like they turned some people away. But like I said, we are going to build and showcase the tech, showcase that we are fast in developing, in experimenting, in showing new ways and abilities to users, to people. And we are open-minded. We are always happy to discuss whatever is needed. We are building partnerships, strong partnerships with respectable protocols and known people in DeFi space. And this is the way we're not going to stop, and we are going to grow. And I'm sure we will be noticed at some point by many folks who 100 is still under radar. Like, we are not spending hundreds of thousands on marketing or shields, or we're not about that. We are about genuine growth, organic growth. That's what we are looking for in terms of PR, in terms of marketing, in terms of our tech and the users. So it will just take some time, but we'll be there, I'm sure.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed last time I talked to you guys about the fact that you were determined to just build. And as things grew and as things came about, they would come about. And it wasn't a matter of rushing out the door with everything. I think that's great to hear. I think it's a good philosophy. And I think overall the whole ecosystem is going to consolidate some, and it's a bear market coming, is whatever people think. People are being more conservative. People are drawn to projects that are more thoughtful about how they grow. And I think that bodes well for 100. So it's part of the maturing process.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything coming in the future for 100 that we haven't talked about, or that you guys want to make sure we cover before we kind of wrap up?
There's the anticipation of us launching the cross-chain lending. That's already been covered. Keep on building with the tech. We're pushing out new kind of integrations very regularly. I'm sure watch this space and there'll be something new in a week or two.
Sure. I think the cross-chain lending is going to be tremendous. Like that is a next step for me in my mind to this kind of automatic cross-chain future that I think most people see as possible. You guys are actually building something that actually makes that real, right? Where the end user doesn't have to worry about the chain they're on at that moment in order to make use of the protocol. And so I think I think it's an awesome first step towards what we all see as the future of DeFi anyways. That's great to hear. All right, go ahead, Acid.
Just a couple of more thoughts. So basically, we did several rewards distributions to the HND holders back in the days. We are going to continue that, and the HND holders will benefit and we'll be getting in one form or another in the forthcoming month, and with the relevant snapshots, of course. And also, we have some plans in terms of those people who supported our launches and got those co-ops. I was talking about something cooking there as well. And I really hope that Landly, our second project and the second product, will be in a bigger demand than it is right now. Like Terra explained, and I support him strongly that it's a very useful and great tool for projects and DAOs to utilize. So I hope it will get much more traction. Yeah, and cross-chain tech, of course, that was the plan from the very beginning. So it's just a matter of time. We always were meant to build it. Yeah.
I definitely think Lendly has tremendous potential. I think it's just a matter of being able to leverage the partnerships you're building to make people aware of it. But definitely think with all of the funds that are sitting in treasuries right now, that Lendly has amazing potential. That's great. Yeah, sure.
Is that we're in the early stages of discussion with a third party about the introduction of a novel approach to governance on 100 Finance. This is still only the early stages, but it's a means of rethinking governance in a way that kind of better marries incentives. It doesn't end up being the task of the whales. It's something that is spread more evenly across a broader range of personalities within the community. But like I say, early stages still, we're hoping to push that forward and innovate in that sector.
That's a tremendous problem in the space. So if you guys crack that nut, that'll be big news.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. All right, Terra, you weren't on the last time I interviewed. So Acid's already answered this question, but there's a question I ask at the end of every interview of every guest. And so it's your turn. I ask them, what person or project in the DeFi ecosystem do you have a lot of respect for? Do you think are instrumental in the future growth and success of DeFi in general, or that you just admire because you like the way they do things and the way they function in the space?
This is an odd one for me because I have a confrontational relationship with.
Can't wait to hear this.
So I'm going to say Kane Warwick.
Wow.
The founder of Synthetics. I just completed an epoch on the Spartan Council, which is the 8-person team that is really the backbone of governance Synthetics. And throughout that time, I was quite combative, aggressively defending the more bureaucratic side of governance and ensuring that efficiency didn't win out over the ability of the community to participate.
Wow.
So yeah, I admire what he's done in building Synthetics. And also things like the fact that the Synthetics Discord remains a very open place. People can come in, and assuming that they're not saying anything abhorrent, they can reliably share their. And he has thick skin, which is something I think is sometimes lacking in crypto, especially if you look at forums like Crypto Twitter, where people tend to throw the toys out of the pram pretty quickly. Kane is willing to accept an insult every now and then.
That's awesome. And that's strong leadership, right? Being able to take the heat and the pressure and realize that you need to hear from other people. I think that's fantastic. That's
yeah. I mean, the guy has 4 mansions, but he still comes on the governance calls. It's quite impressive.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Wow. And look, nobody can argue with what Synthetics has become in the space. So that's great. That's great. Best place for people to go, should they go to 100.finance and click through there to Discord, et cetera, to start participating, learning more about the protocol? I'll put the links that you shared earlier, Docs, Lendly, et cetera, in the show notes. But anything else you think people should know about engaging, interacting, or becoming involved that we haven't touched on?
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter for sure. And Discord is the best place to get in touch. And follow announcements channel on Discord. Very important, because we are not spamming. We are giving all the needed information and news, and you will always be up to date to what is happening at 100 if you follow that.
Awesome. And the Twitter handle is at 100 Finance. So that's great. That's easy. Yeah. Great. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on and talking about what's going on with you guys. And I'm excited to see the growth that you're having and how many chains you're on and all of the things you're doing to innovate. So look forward to having you back on in a few months, or when we have cross-chain lending happening. I'd love to talk further and see what that's like.
Thank you very much for having us,
Look
Brad.
forward to it.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.